All right, let's jump right in. I want you to think about any business. Doesn't matter if it's big or small, as a kind of journey. You've got your starting point, right? And you've got a destination you want to reach. But in between, well, that's a whole lot of open ocean. So the big question you've got to ask is, how do you make sure your journey actually leads to success and not just, somewhere random? Picture this, a ship, way out in the middle of the ocean. No map, no compass, no destination. Now, it could be a great ship, a sturdy vessel with a fantastic crew, but without any direction, it's just adrift. It gets pushed around by whatever currents and winds come its way. And believe it or not, that's exactly what a business looks like when it's operating without any clear goals. And a business without that direction, it's vulnerable. It's a sitting duck, really. It becomes totally reactive, just constantly putting out fires or chasing the latest shiny object, all without any real strategy behind it. You can't plan for the future because you haven't even decided what you want that future to look like. And that right there is where the real danger is. So how do we get that ship pointed in the right direction? Well, we have to chart a course, right? And in the business world, our maps, our compasses, those are our goals. They are the tools we use to go from being aimless and adrift to being laser-focused and right on target. Let's just put a pin in this and get a solid definition down. Business goals are, pretty simply, the roadmap. They don't just point to some vague spot on the horizon and say, go there. No, a good goal actually outlines the specific path your business needs to take to get from where you are today to where you ultimately want to be. It's pretty much the essential guide for any company that wants to succeed. Now, here's what's so cool about this roadmap. It really does two critical things at once. First, it provides the path, that clear step-by-step direction we've been talking about. But just as important, it fuels motivation. A clear goal gives everyone a sense of purpose. It's that reason to get up in the morning, to work a little harder, a little smarter. It's the why that gives all the power to the how. Okay, but a brilliant map is totally useless if the crew is all rowing in different directions, right? And that brings us to the next massive role that goals play, getting your team unified. A great plan means nothing if people aren't working together to follow it. This is where goals work their magic, transforming a bunch of individuals into a single, cohesive team. And wow, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at the left side. Without shared goals, you get chaos, total chaos. Marketing is pulling one way, sales is pulling another, and engineering is off on its own island. It leads to conflicting efforts, and you just burn through time, money, and energy. But look at the right. With shared goals, everything clicks. You get coordination, a unified purpose, real collaboration. Everybody is rowing in sync. So, how does this actually work in the real world, day to day? Well, for starters, goals give you a framework that makes decision-making so much easier at every single level. You ask, hey, is this new project getting us closer to our Q3 target? If the answer is no, you have to wonder, then why are we doing it? Goals also create a clear way to manage performance, and this is a big one. They build a culture of always getting better, because the whole team is constantly looking for smarter ways to reach that destination. Okay, so we've got the crew all rowing together. Awesome. But your ship isn't sailing in a bathtub, right? It's out there in the real world. It has to navigate the wider ocean, which means attracting support for the journey and being ready to weather the storms of a competitive market. I mean, just think about it like an investor for a second. Which ship are you going to bet on? The one that's just drifting around? Or the one that has a clear map, a confident captain, and a destination? It's a no-brainer. As you can see here, well-defined goals are so much more than a plan. To investors, they show you have foresight. They lower the perceived risk. They signal that you're competent and you have a real shot at a solid return. But what happens when a storm hits? Or, a new island suddenly appears on the horizon? Some people think goals are these rigid things set in stone, but that's a huge misunderstanding. A good goal-setting process is alive. It's dynamic. It means you're constantly reviewing and adjusting. So when that new competitor shows up, you don't just plug your ears and pretend they're not there. No. You review your goals, you revise them if you have to, and you adapt your strategy to stay on course. All right, let's bring it all home. We started this whole thing with a ship adrift, totally lost. And we saw how goals act as the map, how they motivate the crew, and how they help you navigate the seriously treacherous waters of the business world. This isn't just some fluffy management theory, you guys. This is the fundamental difference between hoping you'll succeed and actually planning for it. So what's the real-world impact of all this? Well,
While the exact numbers can vary from study to study, the trend is crystal clear. Some research suggests that teams with clearly defined goals can be over 70% more productive and successful. Think about that. Just having that destination in mind and the map to get there fundamentally changes the odds in your favor. It might be the single most powerful thing you can do to steer your business towards success. You know, this quote from our source material just nails it. It says, goal setting isn't some passive thing you do once a year and forget about. It's a proactive and essential practice. It provides the very structure, the focus, and the motivation that separates the businesses that are truly thriving from the ones that are just surviving. And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to chew on. It doesn't matter if you're running a massive global company or you're a one-person startup grinding it out. The journey is yours to chart. So I want you to take a hard look at your own map. What's the very first stop you need to define to get you that much closer to your ultimate destination?